Okay, good morning. So, good day, good afternoon, good evening. So, it doesn't matter what time of day you'd like to look into this lecture video. I hope you'd be able to get the chance, no, because wala tayo laing paagi kundi mag-lecture video. Okay, so this is a three-part discussion. So, you'll be covering three topics, no? Again, in a sort of review of whatever you have learned last semester. So for the learning objectives, syempre, no, first part natin is control of bacterial growth. Okay, so we are going to cover concepts, principles of infection control and laboratory safety since we'll be working in the laboratory. Okay, also we'll be covering different types of sterilization methods, disinfection methods, and we'll be looking into the different aspects, no, of disinfection and sterilization, like time, temperature, no, concentration, and others. Okay, so hello guys. Naako diri karon sa faculty room. Okay? So employees day ko no, pero yes, eto nagpapaka-employee tayo. Okay? So before we start, let's first cover some terminologies that we would usually come across when we're dealing with controlling microbes. So that would include decontamination. So when we say decontamination and how different that is from sterilization. Okay? So pag decontamination, you're trying to remove, okay, materials, no, foreign, dirty objects from materials that you would like to use. Like pag maghugas mo plato, no, manlaba mo, that's decontamination, okay? But it does not mean you'll be able to remove whatever is infectious, okay, or pathogenic. Okay, so, yeah, hindi ko maintindihan itong camera to. Hiwi. Ganun. Dapat ganun. Okay, when we talk about sterilization refers to the process of removing, okay, dirty objects, and the process of removing non-pathogenic and at the same time pathogenic organisms. So complete process when you talk about sterilization. Okay, disinfection, on the other hand, this is merely removing contaminating materials in your or on your inanimate objects like your tabletops, no? So that's disinfection. So when we say disinfectant, so you use whatever you can to remove those non-pathogenic organisms. So pwedeng alcohol is a disinfectant. Pero pwede rin naman gumamit ng antiseptic material when you disinfect. So like your betadine, no, or povidone iodine. So this is best for cleansing or cleaning living tissues. Okay, yung kanang makafeel pa og hapdos. So we use antiseptic. Pero pag kanang inanimate objects, walang sugat, okay lang ang ating disinfectant. So pag degerming naman, ayan, no, like when you're cooking, you're washing dishes, you're simply degerming, removing dirt and whatever's on your spoon. Okay, sanitation, it would involve making sure, no, your environment, your living quarters is devoid of materials that may carry infectious or contaminants, no? So like, pag sa CRs, isa-sanitize mo yan, lilinisan mo yan. Okay? Wala may malibang, pero na nangihi. So, yun mo na siyang isanitize. Limpyuhan gihapon. Or like sa yung mga waterways natin, mga canals natin. So, isa-sanitize na, tatanggalin natin yung mga basura doon. So, that's also part of sanitation. Okay? Sepsis is the presence of bacterial, microbial organisms on say in the body, no? So that's sepsis. Okay? Hindi lang yung microbes, but also their toxins are present, their dead bodies are present. Asepsis would refer to the opposite of sepsis. So when we say asepsis, it is devoid of infectious materials. Okay, so how do we acquire asepsis? No, so it's really important to be able to acquire that state, no, aseptic state in laboratories, no, because we're trying to ascertain the cause of infection. So dapat walay mag-contaminate. So when we say asepsis, devoid of anything that would contaminate your assays. Okay, so we can do this by applying aseptic techniques. Aseptic techniques would be employing the use of your disinfectants, applying the use of your antiseptics. Yan, no? And then we have bacteriostatic agents. So bacteriostatic, meaning dili man mamatay ang organism, but it would be inhibited from growing and multiplying. So parang ano lang siya, held at suspended animation yung iyong microorganisms. Now, germicide is another term that we come across in controlling microbes. No, it's a general term. It could be bactericide. No? It simply means to kill germs, right? So bactericidal, it would kill bacteria. Virucidal would kill viruses. Fungicidal would kill fungi, and of course, polycide would be able to kill spores. Okay, spores ng fungi or spores ng endospores ng bacteria. So we have to be clear on that. No, it could be either bacterial or fungal spores. So you have to look into yung ano no yung literature dun sa container ng iyong disinfectant or germicide. Okay? So when we're talking about controlling microbial growth, we come across, or we should be able to understand, that there are factors that would influence how effective those disinfectants or antiseptic material would be. Okay, so factors that influence the effectiveness of antimicrobial treatment would include this four. Okay, so number of microbes. Syempre, kung daghan kayo hugaw, no? Dapat partneran mo rin yun sa amount at concentration ng gagamitin mong antiseptic or disinfectant. Kintakay man labakag 1 week worth of laundry. Tapos na lang kay isa ka sachet nga sabon. Di na siya pwede, no? So dapat pantay. So if you're going to disinfect a whole batch of Petri dishes and test tubes, dapat you should be equipped with an amount ng disinfectant that would be enough to kill the microbes present in your Petri dishes and test tubes. Next, type of microbes. Syempre, di ba, alam natin we have non-pathogenic and we do know there are pathogenic organisms. So what we're trying to keep ourselves away from are your pathogenic microbes. So you have to be familiar with the characteristics of your microbes. And then, partneran mo yon ng magandang antimicrobial agent or your disinfectant. Okay? Okay. Next, we have environmental influences. So what are examples of environmental influences? So the amount of solvent that you're going to use. If you're going to dilute your sample, dilute it in a way na still working pa rin ang concentration ng iyong ng iyong disinfectant. No? So pag sinabing 10% na bleach, make sure that your solution or your solvent would be 10% at hindi yung nagtitipid ka kaya ginawa mong isang drum na malaki tapos isang cup lang ng disinfectant. So, hindi pwede, no? So, kailangan enough yung concentration ng iyong tawag nito, ng iyong disinfectant. What else? If, for example, you're trying to clean materials that would contain fats, lipids, vomitus, for example, mucus. Okay, so if you're trying to work with those things, alam natin na they would be able to coat your bacteria. And so pag diretso mo na i-expose yung bacteria mo dun sa suka or dun sa plema, hindi totally mamatay yung microbes natin kasi nandun yung fats or mucus that will wrap your microorganism. So it's important that you are able to apply your disinfection on the material itself, and then segundahan ni mo second na limpyo na po using your disinfectant. No? So usually pag may spills or may suka, for example, tinatakpan niya ng tissue. Kasi yung tissue nilalagyan natin ng Lysol or ng bleach. Okay? We leave that for about around 15 to 20 minutes. Okay? So let it soak para matanggal yung mamatayin kung ano yung pwede mamatay. And then you gather those materials with gloves of course, gather yung suka, yung plema with the tissue na pinang-cover mo. And then, saka mo siya buhusan ulit ng bleach. And then you can mop that. Pero you'll have to make sure na naka-stand din for 15 to 20 minutes yung ating disinfectant sa second na paglilinis natin. Secondly, time of exposure is really important. So usually nakalagay yan dun sa mga pamphlets o yung mga instructions sa likod ng containers ng disinfectants natin. Sa likod ng Lysol, nakalagay yan dun kung gaano kadami at gaano katagal dapat ang exposure ng ating organism sa ating chemical na ginamit. So say for example, bleach na 10%, kailangan mo siyang i-expose doon, no? Yung material mo na lilinisan should be exposed for about an hour or half a day. So you should follow that. Okay? Because yun yung sabi ng manufacturer. And yun yung na-test nila. They do test that, no? For them to state that in every bottle that they sell. They have already tested that. So magsunod ka. Okay? Para hindi tayo kumulang sa ating pag-disinfect. Okay? Okay, so this is a list, no, showing you the most resistant to the least resistant of the microbial agents and materials that we have in our environment. So looking at this list, you'll see the most resistant sa mga antimicrobial agents na meron tayo are the prions, okay? So mahirap silang it's so difficult to find an active ingredient against this because ang prions are remnants of viruses. They're not even viruses, no? They're just plain proteins, but still they are infective, no? They are infectious. So at the top of the list, good sila kay, mahirap silang disinfect. Okay? Naririnig niyo ba yung kumakanta? Okay? This is followed by endospores of bacteria. So naturally, endospores are structures that are protective by nature. Okay? So they're built to resist a wide range of antimicrobial treatments. Okay? And of course, ang pinaka-list sa resistant natin organisms are viruses with lipid envelope. So we know for a fact that lipids are really sensitive to a lot of chemicals, no? Alcohol, mamungkag na ng lipids. So hindi natin ito masyadong nagiging problem. Okay? So moving on, ayan, hello ulit. Okay, naririnig niyo ba yon? May kumakanta? Kasi may program. Okay? Anyway, so let's start with the physical methods of microbial control. Okay, so there would be a long list of physical methods. Ito yung pwede nating i-apply directly dun sa ating material na i-disinfect, no? So first, ang pinaka-common na physical method would be heat, of course, okay? So heat is able to destroy organisms by denaturing their enzymes and other proteins. Di ba nga, ang proteins is really sensitive to temperature. So if they're subjected to heat, really high heat, of course, mag-curdle, mag-coagulate ang ilahang proteins. Okay? Now, when we talk about heat, you come across terms like thermal death point, thermal death time, and decimal reduction time, or DRT. Now, your thermal death point refers to the lowest temperature at which all of the microbes in a liquid suspension will be killed in 10 minutes. Okay? So, yun yung lowest temperature. Okay? Ito yung temperature kung saan in 10 minutes, mamatay ang mga organism sa solution. That's thermal death point. And how is it different from thermal death time? Now, TDT is the minimal length of time in which all bacteria will be killed at a given temperature. So, again, death point, lowest temperature. Okay? Death time, ang length of time for you to kill the organism or for the antimicrobial to kill the organism at a given temperature. Okay? Now, DRT naman, or decimal reduction time, is the time in minutes at which 90% of the bacteria present in your solution will be killed at a given temperature. Ito usually yung ginagamit nila in the canning industry. Di ba? So niluluto na. Actually, kaya nga nakakain na natin yung sardinas kahit na hindi natin niluluto, di ba? Kasi naluto na yun. At nakadaan na yun sa DRT. Basta wag lang lumampas ng kanilang tawag nito, best before na mga dates, no? Expiration date. Okay, so one example of heat is moist heat. So we could apply moist heat to kill your organisms. So an example of applying moist heat would be to boil your materials. Di ba? Ito yung pinaka-common na ginagamit natin sa bahay natin. So, pag boiling, di ba 100 degrees Celsius yun? Pero pwede namang, lalo na pag direct heat, di ba? So, pwede umabot na mas mahaba pa or mas mataas pa, mas mainit pa than 100 degrees Celsius. So, moist heat is really important. Okay? Again, because it would kill your microorganisms by coagulating their protein. So, very, very effective ito compared to dry heat. Okay? So, it could kill, no, your boiling could kill vegetative forms of your bacterial pathogens, almost all viruses, fungi, and their fungal spores will be killed in about 10 minutes of boiling or less. As in, yung rolling boil, okay? Gaya na nasa picture, okay? Pero, brief boiling, pwede namang makapatay sa karamihan ng microbes. Basta wag lang yung may, wag lang yung encapsulate, hindi lang yung may naka-spore pa. Okay? Ang hepatitis viruses can survive up to 30 minutes of boiling, ha? O, kaya kailangan mas matagal, painitan mo. Okay? Kagaya ng hepatitis A, di ba? Oh, so yun yung nakukuha natin sa paggamit ng mga tawag nito, mga utensils. Okay? Ang endospores naman ng bacteria can survive up to 20 hours or more of boiling. So dugay-dugay gid ni siya. Maunang kinahanglan nato mas stronger than boiling to kill or destroy your endospores. Okay? Next, ang autoclave, no? So autoclave, example din yan ng moist heat, di ba? So dito, steam under pressure ang ating principle, di ba? So syempre, ang pressure na kailangan natin, ang temperature is around 121 degrees Celsius. So that's beyond the boiling point. So init kayo siya. And then ipa-pressure pa talaga natin at 15 pounds per square inch. Normally, sa atmospheric pressure is only 14 millimeter mercury. No? Nasa around 14 psi lang. Okay? So, yung isang point lang yun, no, na difference between the atmospheric pressure and yung pressure inside the autoclave is a big deal already because we're talking about microorganisms. Gagmay raman kayo ni sila. Okay? So, murang sila ka ng 1 point, murang sila gitiris-tiris ana, no? And then for 15 minutes pa talaga, sumadedo talaga ang ating mga microbes. Okay? Now, autoclave machines should be calibrated all the time. Okay? So, as frequent as around 2 to 3 months, no? Lalo na pag successive ang gamit sa autoclave. So, kailangan talaga siyang preventive maintenance tayo nito. So, one way of making sure that your autoclave is working is to use the kilit ampules. Eto yan sila. Okay? So, these are biological indicators used in making sure na yung autoclave is working. Okay? So, they contain biological indicators, meaning meron niyang laman na microbe, may spores yan na Bacillus stearothermophilus. Okay? So, pag buhay pa rin siya after mong nag-autoclave, after mong nag-sterilize, dumaan ng isang sterilizing cycle, nag-positive pa rin. How do we know? Okay, so we have to check the ampules, okay, check for turbidity, and of course, ang pinakamadaling makita is the change of color from purple to yellow. Okay? So, ibig sabihin nun, may laman pa. So, purple initially, pero pag naging yellow yan, ibig sabihin nun, may microbe pa. So, hindi umaandar ng tama ang iyong autoclave. So, kailangan ipa-calibrate. Okay? Another example of moist heat is pasteurization. So, we know that it was discovered by Louis Pasteur, and of course, it's partial sterilization by heat. Hindi natin totally ine-expose to kagaya ng sa autoclave. 15 minutes yun, di ba? Ang haba nun. Okay? So, madaot po ang mga materials na ato ang i-sterilize pag matagal. So, pasteurization is especially used for beverages, for dairy products, for food. Okay? We would be able to sterilize yun, no? Yung mga delicate materials na yun without having to sacrifice their quality. Okay, so there are three types of pasteurization. We have the classical method, which would expose your organisms to 60 degrees Celsius, pero mahaba ang time. So mababa in temperature, ang haba ng 30 minutes, di ba? So may bagong method. We have the high temperature short time method, which would expose your materials to 72 degrees Celsius, pero 15 seconds na lang. Ang bilis, di ba? Para ka lang pumikit ng ganyan. Pero mas matindi itong ating UHT or ultra high temperature method, which would make use of 140 degrees Celsius. Oh, mas mataas pa kaysa sa autoclave natin. Pero 3 seconds lang naman. And then vacuum cooled yung ating material. Usually, if you are regularly buying milk, no? Yung naka-carton na milk, check ninyo, nakalagay talaga dun yung UHT, sterilized using the UHT method. So you'll know, dumaan yun sa ganitong temperature. Okay? Then, under heat, we have dry heat. No? So for heat, we have moist, which would include your boiling, your autoclave, and your pasteurization. Marami pa sila actually. Pero ito yung yun silang tatlong pinaka-common. Now for dry heat, which is the second example, under heat, this method can kill organisms by oxidation effect. So example nun, yung mga ginagamit natin normally in the laboratory, we sterilize our loops, our needles, by direct flaming it. So using your lamps or your, yung electronic lamp natin or your Bunsen burner, pwede naman. Incineration like this, which would mean you'd be directly decontaminating your materials in open fire. Pero bawal siya dito sa Pilipinas, guys. We have the Clean Air Act, no? So bawal siya. Okay? And then, ito, incineration din to. We also have the hot air oven. We use that to sterilize your glasswares, your metalwares, na hindi natin pwedeng ma-sterilize using your autoclaving or your boiling. Kay basig kalawang. So pwede kayo tamag hot air oven. Usually around 160 to 180 degrees Celsius, 1 to 2 hours, no? So kung mas mataas yung temperature, like 180, pwede na siya, 1 hour and a half or 1 hour. Usually, win 1 hour na natin. Pero kung gusto mo nung long process, pwede naman 160 tapos 2 hours na pag-o-oven yung mga materials. Of course, another way of removing infectious material from your material, infectious organisms from your materials, you can also use filtration. So other than heat, we use filtration. So in filtration, you can use your HEPA filters, which you can find in our BSCs, biosafety cabinets. So your HEPA filters will filter incoming air, and then ibabalik niya rin yun, pero malinis na, nafi-filter na lang yung infectious or contaminated air. We also have membrane filters like this na pwede nating gamitin sa ating pagsala ng mga, say, urine or blood samples na merong may mga parasites or large bacteria or even large viruses can be filtered. Ayan. And then third method, so heat, your filtration, low temperature is also widely used, no? So under low temperature, we have refrigeration. So di ba ito yung ginagamit natin to stall the growth and multiplication of your microorganisms when you need to transport your specimen, di ba? So i-refrigerate para hindi mabilis yung pagkalaki, reproduce, at saka yung pagkamatay ng organisms natin. However, refrigeration is again microbiostatic. Pang-hold lang talaga siya. Okay? Pag pumalik sa normal na temperature, mabuhi lang gyapon ang organism. So nasa 0 to 7 degrees Celsius for bacterial organisms. But for viral, of course, you can go lower than 0 degrees, di ba? Pwede nga hanggang negative 70 degrees Celsius ang storage natin na viral tawag ng ating mga viruses. Okay? Freezing, yung mga below zero, pwede rin siya, no? Nakakamatay ito actually for bacteria and parasite as well. So we can do flash freezing, biglang biglang pagtigas. That's deadly, no? Kasi pwedeng mamatay, no? Makat off yung metabolic processes ng organism. Ang slow freezing is also deadly kasi slowly, okay, magpo-form yung ice crystals and then ang ending nun, matutusok yung iyong mga microorganisms. So, okay din siya actually. Makapatay po dyan ng freezing. And then, syempre, so meron tayong heat, meron tayong filtration, meron tayong low temperature, and yung pang-apat natin, meron tayong desiccation. Remember, desiccation means you remove water, okay, from the environment. And of course, from the organism itself. So, pag desiccated, dry na dry siya. There's no growth, no reproduction. This may really kill no yung mga microorganisms, except of course for those who are able to protect themselves in the form of their endospores. But for organisms like Neisseria gonorrhoeae, napaka-sensitive dito sa temperature, di ba? So it would only survive 1 hour na wala siyang water. Your Mycobacterium tuberculosis may survive several months in dry environments. Why? Because of its unusual cell wall. Remember, nandun yung mycolic acid. It's waxy. It's able to retain whatever moisture it has inside their structures. Ang viruses, wala na siya silbi. Okay? Because again, viruses are acellular, di ba? They don't need the requirements that other microorganisms would need. Okay? Kasi nga, ano sila, acellular. Okay? And of course, protected Cyclostridium and Bacillus, kasi ito nga naman yung dalawang genus na pwedeng mag-survive because of their endospores. Okay? Panglima is your osmotic pressure. Remember, your organism survive in an environment that should have the same concentration of solute and solvent sa kanilang sistema. Di ba dapat isotonic lagi? Okay? However, pag medyo bumaba ang solvent sa labas, di ba nagkakaroon ng problem yan? Pag lasaw sa gawas compared sa sulod, kung sana, hypotonic ang solution, di ba? O dahil kinulang siya ng alat sa labas, anong gagawin ng ng cell natin? I-absorb niya yung water, mag-swell ang cell pag hypotonic sa maanin. O hindi, kung hypertonic naman, dahil masyadong maalat sa labas, so i-contribute ng cell yung kanya water, so ilalabas niya. So mag-shrink. Kung sa'yo mag-shrink? Mag-shrink ang iyahang cell membrane away from the cell wall. So ang cell wall di kayo mag-shrink kay rigid structure na siya. Di ba? So ang exception nun ay si staphylococci or those that are naturally growing on our skin because our skin are acidic by nature, no? So medyo mataas ang ating osmotic pressure. Pero itong mga nasa skin na natin, they are fairly resistant to deep pressure kasi sanay na sila. Okay? And then we have radiation. So radiation may be divided into ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. Okay? So non-ionizing radiation, ito yung nakakamatay by accumulation of radiation. Okay? So hindi basta-basta pag non-ionizing. Pag ionizing, ito yung okay? So, naririnig niyo pa ba ako? Naputol tayo guys, nawala ang internet. Okay? Okay lang ba mo guys? Naririnig niyo pa ba ako? Okay, so naputol panandalian yung ating tawag niyan, recording kasi nawala yung internet. Okay? So hopefully, dili na siya masundan. Right? Okay, so padayon. Okay? Kaya basig niya maputla na pagdaan. Kaya nga wala daw ako na-participate sa program sa August. Okay, so again, ionizing radiation. This would include your gamma rays, di ba? And then, parang gamma rays na lang lagi, di ba? Sa mga, yung mga, sila Superman, sila kung sino-sino pang mga heroes natin sa Marvel. One way or another, parang na-expose sila sa gamma rays. Okay? So, gamma rays, X-rays, electronic beams, no? Electron beams rather, and then UV rays, especially yung mga nasa 150 nanometers pataas. Okay? So, ito yung may mga wavelengths na less than 1 nanometer. Okay? So, ibig sabihin nun, ang laser beams mo, ang sunod-sunod nun is less than 1 nanometer lang. So, dugol-dugol kayo. So, muna, makabung. Okay? So, pang ilang balik na natin to. Okay? So again, no, your ionizing radiation may cause DNA mutations and produce itong mga ano natin, no, yung mga radicals, free radicals, no, like peroxides, which are actually deadly, not only for microbes, but also it's damaging for our tissues. Okay, so this is good for disinfecting pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. Okay, ang non-ionizing radiation, ito yung medyo malalayo, no, yung kanilang tawag niyan yung kanilang distances kasi ang wavelength nila is greater than 1 nanometer. They can also cause mutations pero it would take accumulations, okay, para tawag niyan para makakause talaga siya ng damage in the genetic material. Okay, so examples, you have the UV rays, no, nasa 260 nanometers, infrared, microwave, radio waves. So like your cell phones, for example, no, or the TV, or the monitors that you have in your computer. So excessive exposure to these things may cause accumulations of mutations, no? O mga point mutations na yan sa umpisa, and then eventually it can become frame shift mutations in the end. Okay? So, pwede siya for OR, pero yung matataas na mga wavelength ang ginagamit nila. Okay? And then, nurseries and cafeterias, no, ginagamit din nila yan. Okay? So, moving on to chemical methods of microbial control. So, we have here phenols and phenolics. Okay? So, phenol, this is really irritating sa skin natin. It was initially right, advised by John Lister to be used as the disinfectant for surgical tools, surgical materials. Okay? But at this point in time, iba na yung ginagamit natin because it may irritate, no, the patient's skin. So, mapurnada pa ang ilahang surgery. Okay? Also, very strong odor nito. Okay? Phenolics, on the other hand, are milder versions of phenol. These are chemical derivatives of phenol, like cresols, no, yung O-phenylphenol, which is the main component of Lysol, and bisphenols, or an example of this is triclosan, which is a common component in antimicrobial soap, like sa Lifebuoy, okay, yung brand na yan has triclosan. Okay, so advantages, very stable, no? Phenol and phenolics are really stable. It can persist for a long time, and it could remain active in organic compounds. Okay. Then we have halogens. So halogens are effective, no, even if they are used alone, and they are also as effective if they are used in combination with other materials. So iodine, no, yung tincture of iodine or iodophores, right? Like si betadine is an iodophore, okay, or isodine. Okay. Chlorine is also very effective. So very familiar itong dalawa sa atin. Okay, so si chlorine is a disinfectant. So water, right? So when chlorine is added to water, it would release, okay, hydrogen molecules and chloride. And it would also release hypochlorite, okay, which is your bleach. Okay, so hypochlorite. Sodium hypochlorite lang talaga si bleach. Pero ito, component na rin siya. Okay, so very useful in disinfecting your drinking water, your sewage, of course, yung mga swimming pools. Yan. So ito yung panglinis natin. Of course, kasama rin naman ang alcohol na araw-araw nating bitbit. So it can kill bacteria, fungi, but not really endospores or naked viruses. So daghan man ta pwede gamito, no? Aside from isopropyl, which is a usual component in rubbing alcohol, okay? Pwede rin naman yung ethanol. Kaya lang, ang ethanol is considered a little weaker compared to isopropanol when it comes to disinfection. So it's isopropanol is a better disinfectant, less volatile, no? Dili kay siya nga nakadali lang mawala, no? O tawag niyan mag-evaporate. Si ethanol, madalas ginagamit for drinking alcohol, no? And the best concentration for this is 70%. Okay? And then of course, we have heavy metals. Ang heavy metals are oligodynamic in action. So, naagyod sila. However, medyo maliit lang. Hindi ganun ka tapang ang effect ng ating heavy metals, but meron. So, like, kagaya nung nasa example, ayan, no? So, wala dyan tubo. Ayan, nakakita natin yung small zone of inhibition. Okay, so we have several types of metals na pwedeng gamitin like silver. We have the silver nitrate concentration na dati ay ginagamot yun sa gonococcal ophthalmia neonatorum. Okay, and then mercury. Okay, so we have the merthiolate na ginagamit pang manicure, pedicure para pink-pink. Okay, or mercurochrome. Copper, we have the copper sulfate. Selenium, ito yung selenium sulfide na ginagamit natin, which is an echinocandin o para sa may mga mycology. So, di ba? Si selenium ginagamit na sporicide. Okay? And then of course, zinc, you have your zinc chloride and zinc oxide na pwede nating panglinis talaga. Okay, and then we have the quaternary ammonium compounds or the quats. Okay, so ito yung mga surface active detergent, mga cationic agents, yung mga sabon, mga ganyan, no? They are best against gram-positive, no, than against gram-negative. So mas effective sila against gram-positive. Okay, they can destroy fungi, amoebas, and even envelope viruses. Okay. And then we have aldehyde. So we have aldehyde gas. Okay? It's an excellent disinfectant. Pwede nilang gamitin ito in, tawag yan, pang-fumigate. Okay? Okay rin naman ito na yung kanyang liquid form, formalin, at 37%, no? Yun na yung, I think, concentrated form ng formalin natin. Kasi ang ginagamit natin sa laboratory nasa 10% lang, no? Matapang na yung 37% na solution. So it can be effective, however, it is irritating, no? Sakit sa ilong, sakit din sa mata. Glutaraldehyde, no, like formaldehyde, pwedeng gamitin din for fixation, okay? Pangpatay ng mga microbes na nasa tissue kasi ginagamit din natin si glutaraldehyde. Medyo mahal lang to. Okay? It's also a very effective sterilizing agent, more effective in fact than your formaldehyde. Okay? And then we have your gaseous sterilizers. Ayan, no? So, para sa mga bed sheets, mga linens, mga malalaking materials na hindi na mahirap i-disinfect. Okay? So, pwede yung gaseous sterilizers like your ethylene oxide. Okay? So, kaya lang kailangan ng matagalang exposure, 4 to 18 hours exposure para sure ka na your microbes will be killed. Okay? And of course, endospores as well. Okay? Pero take note that it is really toxic, especially when used in its pure form. It can also be explosive. Okay? Then we have your oxidizing agents o yung ating mga peroxides. So your peroxides can disrupt membrane proteins. That's how they kill microorganisms. No? So ozone, for example, okay, this is highly reactive form of oxygen. Okay, so this is used along with chlorine to disinfect water. Okay, so it's believed to be more effective than chlorine, pero mas stable lang yun si chlorine. Okay, so medyo unstable ang ozone and it's quite expensive. Okay, so usually ozone is formed by exposing oxygen to electricity or ultraviolet light, and then you'll get ozone. Okay. And then, of course, hydrogen peroxide, which is used as an antiseptic. Okay? Pero mas maganda yung ating betadine. Okay? So this is effective also in disinfection of inanimate objects, and it is quite sporicidal also. Okay? Benzoyl peroxide, quite commonly used in acne medications. And then you have your peracetic acid, no, which is effective, which is an effective liquid sporicide or sterilant. Okay, it does not leave toxic residues also. Okay, so that ends our part 1. Okay, so I'll get back to you with another lecture video to see. Check mo muna kasi putol na putol tayo kanina, di ba? Okay.